Me, John D. Villarreal. We're getting ready in about a couple minutes to go live on the show here on Newstalk 1040. And then, of course, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Should be pretty good. We're going to be joined by Paul F. Villarreal. It's going to be pretty awesome. So stand by. We're going to be live in probably 2 minutes or less.
Promo code.
Today, we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to talk about the election, Nikki Haley, more Tucker Carlson. There's just so many things we're going to talk about. There's a lot of ways this show can go, so I don't even know where it's going to go. So stay tuned. We're about 1 minute out, so I'm going to just be quiet now.
Northwest breeze 10 to 15.
Assist.com.
Opinions of Genesis Communications, its management staff, or advertisers.
Welcome to the John Villarreal Show. Now here's John.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, and welcome to the John D. Villarreal Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM. Hey, it's President's Day. So much to talk about here. We're going to be joined by Paul F. Villarreal. There's so much news, it's not even funny. And as I was saying at the top of the show here, we're also live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. I don't even know where the show's going to go because there's just so much to talk about. We have to talk about Nikki Haley. We have to talk about that. We also have to talk about the Mike Benz interview on Tucker Carlson. And we also have to talk about this explosive report on Substack that Jesse Waters talked about, the whole thing. There's an accusations, the origin of the Russia stuff. Okay, and how the Trump campaign and the Trump team were allegedly spied on, how it started, and how it started potentially, allegedly, reportedly in the Obama administration, or that term, that tenure, if you will, and what the implications are. There are reports that there is some dossier, some brief, some folder, something like that. They called it a folder, and maybe, potentially, was that, I'm going to phrase this as a question, was that the predicate for the Mar-a-Lago raid? I mean, there's so much to talk about there. It's unbelievable. But I want to talk about this stuff with Nikki Haley. This is crazy. There's a report. I'm going to bring Paul Villarreal on here very rapidly. We're going to be just you have to just stay tuned to your radios right now, or your mobile device, or your internet device, however you're connected to the internet, and you're watching this live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or X, or if you're listening to me in the greater Tampa Bay area, Tampa Bay, Florida, on Newstalk 1040, you need to stay tuned because we're going to be hitting topic to topic to topic. We don't know where this is going to go. There's so much news, and now I'm talking like insider, potentially insider type of stuff here. And I have to say this. Well, and again, not that. And now let me revise and extend that. I'm not saying we know anything. We haven't been talking in secret, this and that, whatever. What I am saying is we're going to attempt to do some deeper level of analysis that you need to hear because this is so crucial right now. And this is a crucial couple weeks. This week in particular with the South Carolina primary is super crucial. And there are reports that Nikki Haley, that if Trump loses, she's going to say, I told you so. And if she wins, she might get out of the GOP and switch over to a Democrat. Do you know that, GOP voter? Do you know that Newstalk 1040 AM listener? If you want to call in, you can call me up right now, 727-587-1040. 727-587-1040. Let's bring in Paul Villarreal right here. Paul, I was driving home getting ready for the show, and you hit me with that report that Nikki Haley, allegedly, reportedly, if Trump loses, she's going to say, I told you so. And if Trump wins, she's going to just exit the GOP and go over to the Democrats. That is explosive reporting if that's true. Get us up to speed here with the News Talk 1040 audience.
Yeah, it is explosive, John. And what's going on, 1040 audience? What this is coming from the man I talk about a lot of times on the show, Richard Barris, who is
the pollster.
He's also the pollster and also a political insider. And I was listening to his podcast today at about 12 o'clock, and he just dropped that. And he would not be saying that for no reason. He basically said that he's seen materials from the Haley campaign, kind of like what their strategy is and everything. Now, I don't think anybody told him specifically what her plan is, although there might have been some thinking. I just think that that's kind of what he's kind of surmising from all of this. And
Now,
look,
time out. Hold on. Let me just pause you there for a second. And I hate to interrupt, but I just have to do it. And I know the new thing is don't interrupt anyone. Listen, we got to do it because this is going to be a fast moving show here. And I know people are in and out of their cars. They're moving around. They may just hold here 6 seconds, 10 seconds, or 2 minutes, whatever it is. I know how radio goes. Here's the deal. I don't want, oh, you guys are crazy. You're tinfoil hats. We love Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's a Republican. She would never do that. Timeout, players. Here's the thing. I thought I was going to be gone today for an appointment for the family, stuff like that. And I pre-taped a show last night with Paul. And we actually are doing the show live. It's live right now. It's happening right now at 4:11 on February 19th. But part of what we walked through in that show last night is a bullet point, point by point as to how it makes no sense for Nikki Haley to be in this race right now in terms of being able to win. And basically some of the things that Paul was saying is that this is almost it feels like, we're not alleging anything, but we wouldn't be surprised if this is almost a sabotage effort because there is no path to victory by the delegates or any normal means here. She's losing by just buckets and buckets of percentages on any of the polls. In her home state, she's about to get blown out in her home state. The same state that stopped Jeb Bush, and he brought his brother George W. Bush there, and Trump crushed him. I mean, you've got Tim Scott, who's the senator of that state, endorsing him. You've got the governor. You've got all kinds of people behind Trump. There is no path for victory, okay, for Nikki Haley, okay, right now. That's what it says. Anything can happen. We have elections. We understand that, okay? That's number one. Number two is, think about it this way. You've got different office holders in Congress or senators, and particularly in Congress. District changes, things are happening, a red wave, a blue wave, all of a sudden, hey, this Democrat switches to Republican. Hey, this Republican switches to Democrat. Why? Who knows? Maybe their convictions change, or do they really just want to stay in office? Is it about you, the voters, and the principles, the conservative principles, being a real conservative, or is it about them and their office and their privileges and their prestige and all of the above? So I just want to set that table as Paul drives down and drills down into this analysis to think about that. Think about those things. Think about how many politicians have switched parties. And think about the fact that there's a lot of people, no less than Governor DeSantis, Ronnie D. Ronnie D is feeling it again. I don't know. Now, people that know Ronnie D or have met him, or have listened to this, have even been on this show, okay? So I'm not saying, but I've been saying for a while now what I thought was the right moves there. We're not in contact with the campaign. We're not advising anything like that, but I am a talk show host and I am a political expert and I have run campaigns. I have advised for U.S. Senate campaigns. So I'm someone that knows something. Political science major from Berkeley, law school. I mean, it's not a resume drop. The point of it is that some way, somehow, and thank goodness, Governor DeSantis has kind of like gotten back to what made him so great and the best governor of all time in Florida, at least in modern history, in my lifetime, in my opinion. But that campaign was terrible, and it seemed to be sort of taken over or heavily influenced by, you had Jeb Bush out there giving the quasi-endorsement, non-endorsement. I don't know what that was. You had Karl Rove talking about it. You had Fox News and the book deal and all this type of stuff. But some way in the last month, I mean, Vivek Ramaswamy did it the best. Dropped out, being a surrogate for Trump. Now Governor DeSantis is doing things. If you have Vivek out and you have everybody out except for Nikki Haley, and Paul made this point last night, and I'll let him make it again, that Nikki Haley wasn't even on the radar screen. She only came up when DeSantis was going down. Well, DeSantis, Ronnie D is out. Governor Ronnie D is out. Why are you still in this race, Nikki Haley? I just want to set the table of that, Paul. Roll with it.
Yeah. So anyway, what Barris was saying was that what he's thinking, what it looks like, and again, somebody might have, there might have been a little bit more information about that was shared with him. I don't know. He didn't say that, but what he said was, look, what it might be shaping up is that she might kind of hang around, see if Trump loses. If Trump loses, then she could say, see, I told you so. Then she could stay as a Republican, maybe run then. And if Trump wins, then she maybe can flip over to the Democratic Party and run as a Democrat. Because let's be honest, right now, I don't know almost any Republican voters that want to support her. Now, if Trump loses, then she can say, yeah, I told you guys you should have done it. You should have listened to me. Now I'm the person you need. But if Trump wins, of course, and he does not pick her as VP, and I don't think anybody actually believes he's going to do that,
no way.
She's going to be shut out. And so then she would have to go to a Democratic Party bid or something, I guess third party, but that would be, as we both know, and we've talked about this many times, some on the air, a lot off the air, and you just mentioned it. We've discussed other politicians that seem to kind of have perhaps their own interest ahead of the party or the base's interest.
Allegedly,
and
hypothetically.
As Vivek said in the debate, Nikki equals corrupt. That was his feeling, and he made his intentions or sentiments known at that debate and what he said following that little sign putting up. And unfortunately, people need to understand politicians are just people too, and sometimes they're thinking about them and not thinking about you.
Well, not that's very well said. And not just that, Paul, but I mean, for so many people, this is a career. This is it. It's about them. I mean, again, Reese Witherspoon in election and stuff like that. Like, it's all about them. Okay. Do you understand that? A lot of times. And so when the conservative principles, and Trump's not a real conservative. Look at his record, players. Look at what he's doing. Look at the, Make America Great. Look at the MAGA, the America First agenda, everything like that. The thing of it is kind of like what I said and I'm going to be very careful how I say this. There are some of the Republican Party, a lot of influencers and stuff like that. Maybe they have magazines. Maybe they did some great cruises and stuff like that in the past that are very interventionist, very big time interventionist. Maybe Nikki Haley's part of that scene, in the UN and as someone had said, one of the articles I would love to cite, I can't remember, they gave her the nickname, Nikki War Boom Boom Haley. Okay. It's like, dude, I mean, but some of these people were punking out Trump and we're gonna take our magazines and our thing and our think tanks, and we're gonna take our sandbox, so to speak, and go over here. Guess what? There's nowhere to go, players, because what's happened, unfortunately, and it's been very sad, is we're seeing, with the events that are happening in around the world, okay, that the Democratic Party's not the Clinton Democratic Party anymore. It's a little different. You have, some different energy over there. And we'll talk about what Charlemagne the God said about President Biden not having, quote unquote, main character energy. Very interesting. We'll talk about that. But the point of it is that, you have some people that are, saying, we're not for this America. We're interventionists. We're globalists. We like the more of a aggressive foreign policy, if you will. And then all of a sudden you look over here and the events, the tragic events of October the 7th, and also, the infamous testimony on Capitol Hill from MIT and a bunch of the Ivy Leagues with the brilliant Representative Stefanik. Now all of a sudden there's been a realization there's nowhere to go. So now you're seeing Ben Shapiro and some others. Yeah, I was wrong about Trump. And okay, you're wrong. But at least Ben Shapiro, very smart, has understood there's no maneuverability here. There's nowhere to go. Okay. Nikki Haley hasn't gotten that message. And when Donald Trump calls her bird brain, when you look at these political moves, oh my goodness, I do have to take a personal point of preference right here, if you will. Look at my daughter. Come on over here. Have you ever seen a cuter ballerina than this? Newstalk 1040 audience, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and X. Unbelievable. Miss Janaire. Miss Janaire, you want to say hi to the audience very quickly here?
Hi.
Are you getting ready for ballerina school? Are you excited? Well, we appreciate that. Daddy loves you very much, and my wonderful wife, Selma. Very, very good. You listen to mommy. Be safe out there. I want to see plenty of pictures. Unbelievable. And that's what life's all about right there, friends. I appreciate that. Listen, Trump called her bird brain, okay? And when you look at the... I mean, what are we doing, dude? What is this? That's the Nikki Haley campaign in a nutshell for me. I don't understand it. Oh, we got a lot of people in the chat over here. I got to deal with the chat. I apologize on that. Paul, step on up here and talk to me while I look at this chat. I mean, tell me, do you feel like this is desperation? Is this pure calculation? I mean, if this report is true, what do you make of it?
I think it's calculation, and I'm glad you mentioned the influencers, because I was talking to an influencer, whose name I won't give, who is also close to President Trump, and I think helping advise him at this time. And basically, we were talking about various influencers and kind of their own motivations. And what the person said to me was, I just wish that the average person in the base understood that the influencers aren't always being straight up, meaning that they've got their own agenda besides what they're telling the audience, or that's what this person thought anyway. And so Nikki Haley can be saying things, and she cares so much, and she's so worried that the Trump's going to hurt the party and all this stuff, when the truth is, very well might be, she's just thinking about what's Nikki Haley's future.
And let me say this.
And unfortunately, that's how it goes.
I apologize, Paul. I want to make a point here. And I'm going to be very careful how I say this, because the Nikki Haley campaign, on the 5-inch heels and all this, I want to be very careful how I say this. You reported, Paul, and I've been getting these texts. I mean, my phone's been blowing up with texts and stuff like that. I haven't gotten any texts from, well, I don't want to say any, but I can't remember the last time I got a text from the Trump campaign. But my goodness, I'm getting texts from the Nikki Haley campaign. And Paul, you're saying that she's been, texting people like left and right. It's almost like, an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend that you dump that just won't leave your phone alone. She's melting people's phones allegedly on this text. What's going on with all these texts from Nikki Haley, Paul? Or the Haley campaign. Go ahead.
Yesterday, actually, I guess the I didn't see this because I don't follow her on Twitter, but apparently she put out like 30 tweets in like 60 minutes.
Crazy.
So that's what was happening with that. It wasn't even text. It was like tweets. And so people are like, what's happening here?
Yeah, excuse me. Let me revise and extend that. I'll take that back. It wasn't a text. It was a tweets. So do you think they were her? Were they her campaign? Do we know?
I don't know, because I don't follow her, so I don't track it enough. Like with Trump, you can tell if it's him or not.
Right.
It's so obvious because it's his voice. But I think, like you said, and I want to come back to something you said earlier.
Go.
Which was, and we did talk about this, well, in last night. To me, there's just this kind of hubris involved in here, where DeSantis was the main foil for Trump in this entire campaign.
Right.
And Nikki Haley comes in the last 5 minutes and pretends like she's like center stage. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't think anybody is kind of feeling the energy there, except for the people who don't want Trump to win, of course. And for those people, particularly on the left, in my opinion, she's useful, and I think that's where we're at.
I'm glad you said that. In my opinion, when I'm seeing stuff out here, and I'm not going to name names because some of these people, they may be in the left, but like we like them or what, I don't know. Like we're cool with everybody, right? And we don't take things personally. Like we can totally disagree with you politically, but anyway, the point of it is the only people I see online, I'm talking LinkedIn, Facebook, X, that are excited, yay! Oh, yay! About a Nikki Haley campaign right now are hardcore leftists and Democrats. That's it. I don't see anybody on the Republican side, conservative side, that are like excited about Nikki Haley campaign. And again, I got to go and pull up my Real Clear Politics, because you've got Governor DeSantis, the best governor in Florida ever, in my opinion, at least in my recent lifetime. And again, I've had my criticisms. I've been a little concerned with the people that seem to be in the orbit, the little DeSantis influencers and the former Cruz crew and the Rose and the Bushes and all that type of stuff. But if you look at the policies and you look at the academic credentials and the military and all that type of stuff, this is the dude of substance. In other words, but for Trump, but for this crucial time right now, and it is crucial and it is critical, it's hard to fault, the DeSantis. Now, would I take Vivek over Governor DeSantis? Yes, I would. But I mean, Governor DeSantis has a very bright future if he continues on this realignment, boomerang path, if you will, flirted with that type of. And I mean, I assume that most of these politicians are sellouts. I assume that most people are sellouts, particularly now, because the system and the politics and from Obama on, and really, if you listen to Ben, this has been going on but it's really been ramped up. The system is forcing you to be a sellout. If you don't pledge fealty to whatever, hashtag or avatar or cause or whatever it is of the day, then you can get punked out. And most people just want to just do their job and feed their family and go home. And it's just a crazy time. But, when you talk about someone, Paul, in Nikki Haley, who went from apparently, potentially being in debt. Some would say it was like hundreds of thousands, maybe $1 million after being UN ambassador, to now being worth millions of dollars. Like I heard a figure of 8 million, maybe close to 10 million in a matter of years. That's pretty stark. That is like, stop the record. That is like serious money, life-changing money. And I'm not alleging anything, but we've seen a lot of people do a lot of things for a lot less money. Okay. And, you just have to think about that. Okay. I mean, that's a factor potentially. And particularly when someone's sitting there like Nikki Haley talking about, Donald Trump and all that stuff. And I understand like things can get rough in a campaign, but I can't give you a very logical explanation of why Haley is in this campaign right now. Other than just wanting to get crushed in South Carolina. If you want a political future on the Republican side, I would exit prior to South Carolina, or North Carolina, but I guess it's South Carolina. And it's just really bizarre. What do you think, Paul? Final comments on this. We have got 2 minutes for the break.
I think you're right. I think it does make sense, and a lot of people are wondering the same thing. A lot of people are wondering, why are you in here? It doesn't look like you can win your home state. It doesn't really look like she's viable in any of the Super Tuesday states. I think there's like 16 of them. So what's the plan? What are you thinking here? And again, coming from the pollster once more, he just said the plan, according to him and apparently according to documents he's seen from the campaign, probably emails and stuff, the plan is to try to damage President Trump heading into the election. But that makes sense if you look at what he said previously, which is if Nikki Haley wants to be the Republican person in 2028, she needs Donald Trump to lose now. Because if he doesn't lose, then his successor, whoever he picks, is going to be the person and not her. So It's just kind of a Machiavellian thing. That's what it looks like. Coming back to the point you said, too, about the possible financial considerations of all this, one of the reasons why people like President Trump or like a Vivek is that they're rich. They don't need
the money.
They don't need somebody. They don't need anybody to offer them $5 million to do a book and then go run a campaign. They're set. They're good. And it's nice to be in a position where you theoretically can't be bought. And sometimes the voters like that, too.
So much to talk about. We'll have to talk about the New York ruling and the potential fine there. There's just a lot of things bubbling up. I want to talk about the Mike Pence thing. I want to talk about this whole report about the origins of the Russia gate and everything like that. So much. Stay tuned. We're one segment down. We got 3 more big ones to go, players. You're listening to the John D. Villarreal Radio Show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We'll be back in 6 minutes. See you then. What's going on, everybody? It's John D. Villarreal here on the John D. Villarreal radio show on Newstalk 1040 on the greater Tampa Bay area, all over the place, also live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We've been talking about Nikki Haley. We've been talking about election 2024, joined by Paula Villarreal. I also need to put something else on the table right now. I was talking about it before. I gotta find this writer. Paul knows who it probably is. I think Matt Taibbi's also involved. And I'm just telling you right now, this is explosive. We also have video here. Quote, Papadopoulos, media's cover-up of Obama administration's Russiagate origin is finally coming out. But basically what was alleged is that there is that basically under the Obama administration, they spied on the Trump campaign. It was like, or the Trump associate, it was like 20 plus, like 26, 20 plus people. They got the Five Eyes, which is basically the English speaking, some Western countries over there. So it's like Australia, and then it's Britain, and etc. I believe that's right. And Paul will kind of there may be Germany in there. I don't know. Paul will kind of lay some of that out. So if I misspeak, I can revise and extend as well. But basically, then they created situations like Papadopoulos had the honey trap, and stuff. And they remember those weird meetings with these people with Trump Jr. and Trump and the Rush, and there was like some just weird stuff going on. We had those, and then because of those contacts, this is what's alleged, what's reported, because of those contacts that were set up, okay, but allegedly, reportedly, by the other members of the Five Eyes, then that gave that was disclosed to U.S. Law enforcement agencies, which then gave them the predicate to set up the surveillance. And if this is true, that's alleged or reported to be. And I think there's someone they were on Jesse Waters, and that could be election interference, and that could also be all kinds of different things going on right there, in my opinion. And then supposedly there is a folder that was at Mar-a-Lago, and maybe that was the reason for the Mar-a-Lago raid. These are extremely, we're not alleging it. We're just trying to comment on what has been reported out there. Do you believe it? Do you not? I don't know. Let's bring Paul in here and talk a little bit more about this. Paul, what's going on with this? This is super explosive if it's true.
It is explosive, and the author you're talking about is Michael Schellenberger.
Yes, there you go.
Who I believe does most of his stuff through Substack now, along with, again, work with Matt Taibbi. The Five Eyes are Australia, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and USA. And so the thinking on that was, and this was brought up previously, but this was brought up in the past, let me put it this way. But the thinking is, if the USA is not permitted legally to surveil their own citizens, then maybe somebody else in the Five Eyes could do it. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's kind of the theory here, right? And so that's the background. Those are the Five Eyes. That's the author you're talking about. And right, the thinking was, and this was mentioned at the time it happened, of the raid at Mar-a-Lago, which is what now, like 15 months ago or whatever it was, or something like that, that some people felt that they were looking for evidence or potential evidence that Trump may have had in his possession that he may have declassified that could potentially, put the finger on various people who may have been involved in some of these activities. And so, I mean, you could understand why there might be a reason or a desire to try to get a binder or something like that. And that's basically the background here.
That is super, super crazy. And you do have, it is Michael Schellenberger, and I see he's been on Fox News, so props to Fox News about that. And now, remember, Michael Schellenberger, you're not talking about someone that's written for the Wall Street Journal or the American Enterprise Institute or Heritage Foundation. This is someone who has been focused on environment and climate change and all kinds of stuff. Again, Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss, you have some big heavyweight journalists of the left that are so, if I don't know what to say, maybe disabused, disgusted, awakened, if you will, I don't know what you want to call it, that are now like, hey, we want to be independent journalists. Hey, there's something wrong with this government overreach. Hey, this isn't free speech. Hey, this is a problem, in my opinion. And you have it right here in Real Clear Politics, and this is from Tim Haynes. Headline, quote, Schellenberger, missing classified docs on Obama launching Trump-Russia allegations could have been the reason for FBI Mar-a-Lago raid. And this is just super crazy. And he did this with Matt Taibbi, okay? And this is who was former Rolling Stone reporter, again, formerly a left-wing guy, and that basically... quote, Michael Schellenberg, Michael explained how all this started with the CIA picking these 26 Trump people. And this is really crazy. The Russia collusion hoax. Remember, we had years and years of Russia, and it was a hoax. In fact, you have in the Senate race in California, other candidates openly calling Congressperson Schiff a liar. And he can't say anything about this issue. And what do you say to that, dude? What do you say to that? It's getting super crazy. Now, this is a long thing here. I can't, I'll pick some quotes here and there when I can. But I mean, this is a long, because it's very dense, 5 minutes, 7 minutes of an interview on Fox News between Jesse Waters and Michael Schellenberger. But this is, Paul, I mean, how can this stand? I mean, if this is, we need some digging and some reporting this. This is a big, huge, monumental deal. Do you think that we'll get more reporting, and do you think it's going to have an impact at all in this election cycle if this comes out?
I do think there will be more reporting. I think there's been kind of a steady drip of information giving to certain reporters or that they've uncovered. Look, Schellenberger was somebody who worked on some of the Twitter file stuff. So as you said, even though he was coming from kind of environmental or whatever background, he's proven himself as somebody who will take on these topics in a serious and competent way, and which is great. So it seems like he's got some sources, and maybe they'll give him some more information. Will it affect this cycle? It's a really good question. I mean, as we saw over the weekend, or even the whole last week, there's been a lot of kind of reanimation of the topic of Russia, and of course in the context of Ukraine. And so there are people, I guess Hillary Clinton was kind of out there recently trying to apparently restate the Russia hoax. So it could be that this kind of helps counteract that. And certainly if you get into the stuff with, if the binder information is correct, in other words, if that was the basis of the Mar-a-Lago raid, yeah, I definitely think it could end up affecting the election, partly because we're waiting to see when this classified documents trial begins for Trump. And I mean, it's just explosive information of itself. And it could put more heat on the Biden administration and the DOJ and so forth about, is Donald Trump being unfairly targeted by the legal system?
Okay, and to that point, so we'll just have a couple pull quotes right here. This is Michael Schellenberger speaking on Jesse Waters. Quote, we feel very confident that our sources were in a position to know and are very credible in this report. It's obviously a very serious allegation because this is illegal spying and it is illegal election interference. So then they go forward, they talk a little bit more about the binder, and all that. And then so Schellenberger again, quote, I will say there has been a widespread speculation that this binder was the reason or a reason for the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago. And he goes on to talk about that. And the final thing that I want to throw in there, right there, Schellenberger wraps up, quote, I've been thinking about in the history of the United States, have we ever had something like this where the intelligence community was weaponized against a political candidate and using our foreign allies to do it? I can't think of a more important or dramatic story. Paul, your reaction?
Well, this is, I think, this election, and I think many recent elections have been kind of a story of narratives and whose narrative is going to win out and what narrative can we create and so forth. If the narrative becomes prominent back to Trump has been wronged and they spied on him potentially, and maybe they raided Mar-a-Lago under strange pretenses, yeah, that could have a huge effect. I mean, that could have a massive effect. Look, we're in the midst of, we just saw what happened in New York. We're in the midst of this series of hurdles for Trump. So if it comes out that, yes, we have some definitive proof of what happened here, and we know that this was kind of not done properly, yeah, it could be a huge story. I mean, that could take over the election cycle, in my opinion.
Well, when you talk about Mar-a-Lago raid, no less than Tucker Carlson himself has said that the Mar-a-Lago raid was where he basically, we got a little comment here from Jimmy. Jimmy's liking it. Good stuff. Thanks. We appreciate you, Jimmy. And that's from X. We appreciate you. Absolutely. So that's very good. We have no less than Tucker Carlson, who said openly, publicly, that the raid on Mar-a-Lago was what changed his mind and basically let him know that, like, you have to support Trump. It was his Rubicon, if you will, political Rubicon, if you will. And I think a lot of people are feeling like that. Now these crazy, well, how about, let me revise this time. Hold on. I'm going to take that back. You have these massive rulings of fines, and the one in New York City, okay? And now we have potential, truckers talking about they might protest. A lot of businesses saying they might leave. And in fact, no less than we have it over here. Where is it? Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank, billionaire investor or very, very wealthy investor. I'm not his accountant. Quote, shocked at quote unquote. Okay, let me do it again. Quote, O'Leary, quote unquote, shocked at quote unquote arbitrary Trump fraud decision. Quote, I would never invest in New York now, unquote. Okay. This is the thing we talked about. This is the thing we talked about last night. We're going to talk about right now.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are like, well, it's just Trump. It's this one. He's such a threat. He's such a threat. We can't show both sides in the news anymore. He's such a threat. We gotta maybe kind of like, it's just this one time, Governor Hochul. It's just this one time. It's just Trump because he's this existential threat, and Russia, and all that stuff. And what's going on is the people that are clamoring for democracy. Hold on. Let me get this set up right here for a second, Paul. Let me see if I can get this right. Democracy. Oh my gosh, you have to say my democracy. Okay, those kind of people that are I love this. That are screaming about that are the ones that are all for tearing it down in this case, okay? That are doing these crazy rulings, that are doing things that might upend the real estate market in New York or beyond, that are upending the norms, that are I mean, if we had spying and weaponization of the IC intelligence community against the presidential campaign, what's going on, Paul? I mean, it's so crazy now that we've normalized crazy land, if you will. But I mean, you have to say that we're in uncharted territory now. And I don't want to be hyperbolic or bombastic, but this is serious stuff. What do you think?
No, it's not bombastic. This is bigger than anything else. In fact, I saw somebody talking about this, and the way that they made a comparison with the meme was they had two boats in the water. One's like a kind of a dinghy, and the other one's like a cruise ship. And the little dinghy said Watergate, and the cruise ship said Russiagate. So that's kind of like, I mean, this is a huge thing. What we talked about last night, you mentioned Tucker and other people kind of coming around to this. Remember the debates? Vivek said he kind of like has come to a different conclusion with January 6th. So think about somebody like that who wasn't there. What we saw after the New York ruling this past on Friday, you mentioned Kevin.
And let me just say this real quick, because I don't want that to, and I apologize for this, but I have to say this because I don't want anyone to miss this. Tucker Carlson, when you talk about J6, people go crazy. No one's alleging anything. We're not saying anything. Paul's not saying anything. But Tucker Carlson has a sitting member of Congress who used to be law enforcement who said he was shocked when he read, and this is my paraphrase, very rough paraphrase, shocked when he read the reports about J6, and that there was, I think he said, at least 200 law enforcement assets that were on the ground at that time. How many people know that? And when you hear this thing about the weaponization, potentially alleged weaponization of the Russia hoax, I mean, you start asking questions. Go ahead, Paul. I just want to set that out. I just want to set that table. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, whatever anybody thinks about Vivek, he's a very serious guy. He's not just going to kind of say things without being able to back it up and so on and so forth. Coming back to the New York ruling, you mentioned Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. Well, a bunch of other what we would call neutral actors, I'm talking not partisan people, have come out since that ruling and said very similar things to Kevin O'Leary. Patrick Bet-David. I've seen of several other people basically say, like, I can't believe this happened. I have people that follow me and I follow who are in the lending business. And they're like, this is like, I can't believe this. This is like, I can't even believe that they did this. But other people who are noteworthy, who are not partisan, saying, I just like this might be their Rubicon, the same way that the other thing was Tucker Carlson's Rubicon. So I think more people are waking up. And as much as the left celebrates these kinds of things, I think some average people are like, what? Whoa. I mean, maybe this is a little bit too much.
No doubt about it. And no less than Harvard law professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz was saying that usually there's a multiple in the damages of the actual damages of what the fines are. There's no damages here. I mean, it's like, that's what's so super crazy. And it's like, you know, a lot of people, even on the left, were like, what are we doing? It's anything to get Trump. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of Ukraine. Very, very different, obviously, very different set of subjects. But with the Ukraine situation, we're spending billions and billions, and Ukrainians have lost over 500,000 people there, or there's been 500,000 people killed on both sides there. And we're just going to pour more money into what? You can't win. Vladimir Putin says you can't win. And you may, we don't believe him. Okay, well, are we winning? Like, what are we doing there, dude? And there's these memes about fighting to the last Ukrainian. I mean, it's super sad, honestly. It's really sad. And what I'm saying is, where the analogy is very tangential, but it's still, I think, potentially is a potential analogy. You get caught in these. What are they? When you double down and triple down and whatever, you can end up losing in these things, and you're pushing the boundaries so far. It's like Don Quixote tilting against a windmill. I can try and I can try and I can try to dunk a basketball, and I'm never going to dunk a basketball by myself without a step ladder or some kind of trampoline. And if I keep trying, not only am I not going to do it, I might end up blowing out an Achilles or worse. Okay. And so what are we doing to our system in this fervent, just Trump derangement syndrome of attempt to keep Trump, for some, this fixation of keeping Trump out of the Oval Office, even if the people vote him there again? Paul, what do you think?
I think it's a great point. And Ted Cruz, who I think he was Solicitor General at one point of the United States for the Bush administration, or certainly he argued before the Supreme Court. He was on with Maria Bartiromo yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures, and essentially just said what you just said, which is, look, we're seeing kind of a distortion of the legal system greatly just to try to go after one person. And what does that do to the judicial system? What does that do to the faith in the judicial system? You start ending up with a whole bunch of unintended consequences and just things that you didn't expect. And it does seem a bit out of proportion. And I'm telling you right now, I see it all the time on Twitter, that, people we call quote unquote normies, which are just people who are just kind of down the center, don't pay a lot of attention to politics, aren't really interested, aren't really partisan. They don't like this. I've seen people that do not like this, the legal actions that have been taken against Trump. And so I think it's kind of slipping into this kind of the general population that, like, well, maybe we're going a little too far here.
Well, it's no different than Colorado or Maine. And that looks like, we don't know. We don't have a ruling from the Supreme Court yet, but that looks like that's going to be crushed. It may even be 9-0. How do you explain to people, how do you explain to the voters that we're not going to let you vote for Trump? we're going to decide who you can vote for. We're going to take out the other opposing candidate, their number one, the potential nominee, the what looks like the presumptive nominee at this point. I mean, early on. I mean, how do you explain that? And they can't. It's just like it was like this. Byron York, I think, had a column recently talking about special counsel Jack Smith. I believe that I've got that right. And in the headline, I think was something to the effect of, my paraphrase, not a quote, Jack Smith's in a hurry, but he can't explain why. And I mean, like, dude, all these things, and there's been reports that Fonnie Willis, the DA, that has been in the news lately, out of with one of these Trump cases out of Atlanta, was maybe meeting with the Biden administration. It just seems like, when one fizzles out, then all of a sudden another one pops up. It's just very weird, Paul. And and I'm not alleging anything, but it wouldn't surprise me if people are feeling like, maybe Trump is being, picked on a little bit. Like it doesn't feel. I can understand why someone could say that this doesn't feel organic, whether there's the timelines and trying to get, trying to get court action and legal action during, right next to Super Tuesday and the rush to do it right now. I mean, it's just, the whole thing's very weird. And I feel like it's falling down like a house of cards. What do you think? We got 3 minutes.
Yeah, look, it isn't showing up in the polls. That's for sure. In fact, when we know the opposite has happened, which seems people have been to rally to him, at least Republican voters. Now, there is polling out there saying, just kind of generically, hey, if President Trump is convicted by a jury of a felony, will you vote for him more or less? And of course, it looks like it hurts him then. And then that, to me, kind of feels like what we're doing here is we're chasing a conviction, because we see these polls that don't look great for President Biden right now. And so, but you see this kind of hope out there, this brass ring saying, maybe if we can get a felony conviction, maybe that can change the complexion here. So just putting two and two together, and I'm not inside anybody's head. I don't have any, plans, anybody's plan or strategy in front of me. But what else is it, or what else do you think it could be for them, particularly, as you said, to have the timelines that we're dealing with here? This stuff could have been dealt with years ago, or could have been dealt with years in the future. Why right now? Well, so you have to ask that question.
Yeah, you do have to ask that question. And also, it's like when you talk to these people, on the left that may have a tinge of Trump derangement syndrome. Trump's guilty. Trump's guilty. He has to account for his crimes. He's guilty of what? He's guilty. Okay, but what? Well, he's got to go to jail for what? What did he do? Like what? What are you talking about? And it's just like this of get him for anything. It doesn't matter, dude. It's just like they can't even articulate anything about this, and yet they're just, some of these people are, metaphorically speaking, almost foaming at the mouth to get Trump. And when you talk about Trump derangement syndrome, there seems to be some people out there that may embody that. And it's just but again, what damage are we doing to our system? This is a former president. That is the leading candidate for the opposing party right now. And it could never happen, John. This is crazy talk. This happens all the time in other countries, okay? Not every other country, but some countries. This is not a new phenomenon. And, so much to talk about. Listen, first hour is down, second hour coming up, players. You're listening to the John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Stay tuned. 6 minutes, hour 2. We're going to recharge and be ready for it. We'll see you then.
to my
malpractice.
We're about 30 seconds out. About 30 seconds out.
Law.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal. This is the John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM in the greater Tampa Bay, Florida area, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Joined by Paul Villarreal this show, and we're talking about a range of things. We've been talking about Nikki Haley. Why is she running? We've been talking about Michael Schellenberger's, talking about the origin of the Russia collusion hoax and how basically Trump was targeted by the Obama intelligence community and stuff, and the Five Eyes and all that. Allegedly, reportedly, he's been doing some reporting with Matt Taibbi on Substack and Fulmer. Both of them, I would consider, would have been considered previously as left wing. Schellenberger covering environmental issues. Matt Taibbi covering a range of issues for Rolling Stone. A lot to talk about there. The question is, why is Nikki Haley still in this election and race? But also, 5 o'clock hour here, it is drive time all around Tampa Bay area. Gorgeous, gorgeous weather right now. We definitely appreciate on the 19th of February. It was raining big this weekend, but the sun is out. People are out. President's Day. And we're talking President's Day. We're talking about this upcoming presidential race that is on right now. And we've got South Carolina that's about to happen. Nikki Haley's home state. Is she going to get crushed there? The polls say yes, she is. What happens? But then we're also talking about the lawfare, potential lawfare against Trump. One of the things we want to talk about is these truckers. I mean, a lot of truckers are talking about maybe boycotting New York now. Now there's maybe a little bit of a walking back of that from quote-unquote Chicago Ray. This is from Fox News. But I also want to talk about this Mike Benz interview with Tucker Carlson. And Mike Benz really laid out that, and Paul's going to get into some detail about this, but basically the whole gist of it was that there has been an involvement from governments and the defense agencies globally, but certainly in America for a long time, involved in the media and involved in what some would maybe consider propaganda and taking down, censoring posts and the Twitter files and things of this nature. And some of these media organizations started with defense grants or DARPA funding or whatnot, allegedly. And it just went into a very extensive discussion of these things and how it's evolved and where we're at now, to the extent that with algorithms and AI and big data that they can take down, if you say different words, they can take down 100,000 plus social media posts simultaneously. Paul, this sit down with Tucker Carlson was a big deal. What exactly is Mike Benz saying, if you can summarize some of that?
Well, I have not had a chance to watch.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I did that. I was able. Okay, I'll do this. Now I'm reliving last night. Okay, so but I know you've got some commentary generally, and I'll just quickly set the table. what he's saying is that the original broadcast, alphabet broadcast channels and stuff like that, and some others and whatnot, that without getting specific, we're going to revise and extend that. Let me start over. That there's been a long-standing, Project Mockingbird, with agencies, if you look at how many people used to work for some of these, intelligence agencies that are now either at some of the tech companies or at Twitter, formerly Twitter, or at Facebook and stuff, let alone, some of the big media organizations over time, you might be surprised. And he kind of just details how, this happened for a long, long time, but also like with the Patriot Act, it went from looking at outside threats to inside threats, and you have the NSA and you have different things like that. And then you have, social media coming up, and that social media really scares them because they can't control social media the way they could control some of these other agencies. And look, when you have the government knocking, it's hard to resist that in terms of turning over, access to people's emails or tweets and whatnot. And just goes through this. I would refer people to that just a very extensive interview with Tucker Carlson, where he was talking about the modern day algorithms and how they can kind of go off of certain keywords and stuff. And now with the Obama administration, things got really ramped up, in my opinion. That's my paraphrase. So I just want to set that table, and where we're at now, where it's people know about cancel culture, and you could be someone huge. You could be an Alex Berenson, a doctor. You could be a Russell Brand. You could be a Tucker Carlson on Fox News. You could be whatever, and that free speech basically is under threat. And no less than Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and a bunch of other people were having spaces recently. David Sachs on X talking about free speech being under threat. And Ron Johnson and their funding for the Ukrainian war in Ukraine, and basically why we how they're trying to put that together, the border bill, and just a lot of issues, and it just doesn't make any sense. And so, how rigged is the game? Can you choose are they going to let you choose your presidential candidate or not? Are they going to use lawfare? Are they going to have the IC and defense in media organizations? Do you have a free press? Are they going to censor every post that they don't like? And it's just talking about how posts that just went against the narrative were just getting instantly flagged. And it's a very scary thing. And you look at these different stories. You have Five Eyes allegedly being used to target a presidential campaign for the opposing party. Is that constitutional? No way, right? Or the government, being involved with the social media companies to take down posts. Well, they're private companies. Yeah, but you're telling them what to do. So these are I'm not alleging anything, but these are very disturbing reports that I think are related. So within that context, I know the broader sort of message, I think, from Mike Benz, Paul. And what do you think about what was those kind of discussions and those kind of comments? And you can provide a little more context for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, first let me say that Mike Benz, and my understanding is that he's a lawyer who used to work at the State Department, and he worked specifically in the internet, information technologies, internet such department of the State Department. So he definitely has an understanding of these issues. He has the background to really have a grasp of it. When we talked about this before, you and I, off air, well, one of the things we said is, and you mentioned Project Mockingbird and just kind of the synergy or the potential synergy between the government and the media, when the media was much simpler, when it was the three networks, when it was just a couple of things like that, there was much more of an ability or probably a comfort from the establishment or the government that information flow could be controlled, so to speak. Not saying that it was, but it could be if it needed to be. If they need to get out a message to the public, they could do that over the three networks. But as we said, now we're in an era where, of course, it's much harder to do that with the internet, but not only is it harder to do it, you have personalities and celebrities being created on the internet that you are not in charge of. You do not give the orders or the marching script to Alex Jones. You don't tell you don't tell Tucker Carlson what to say. So in other words, if these people want to go and have their own story arcs or create their own discussion points, like Tucker Carlson going and interviewing Putin, they can do that. And that might that might be counter to what some of the people in the establishment want. As of course, we've seen that with the Putin interview. But apparently, I mean, supposedly, I heard in an interview that Tucker Carlson discussion with Putin generated over 1 billion views worldwide. When you can get something like that, that is going to draw the interest, in my opinion, of those people in control or in charge of things. Whether it could be a negative thing or even a positive thing, it's something that you have to kind of keep an eye on. And so we are in a different zone. We are in a different time now, where there are more people popping up who can kind of get an audience and get their message out. And I think that is a little nerve-wracking to the establishment.
Makes total sense to me, and I understand that. And I think that, people have to remember that the American government, well, let me revise that. Many governments are in the propaganda business, to some extent or another, to some times or another. Like, there was all kinds of propaganda during World War II, and you also had big celebrities that were going on, like Bob Hope and others that were going on USO tours, and let's go rally the troops, and let's do all that type of stuff. You have, WWE that goes over and support the troops and everything like that. Now, some of it you may say is innocuous, and maybe some of it is less so. But yes, I mean, there's a big interest in that. And what he talked about is there was kind of a height, and we talked about this before, with the color revolutions and the Arab Spring and using social media and being able to use social media to do what the government wanted to do, right? But then in recent years, and that was during the Obama time, but in recent years, they've lost control because there's just too many different conversations out there and people that are sort of, for lack of a better word, quote unquote, off script. Some would say, what I would say is that's just free speech, dude. And they're having this worldwide conversation, and the elites are freaking out. Paul, what do you think?
I do think they're freaking out. I do think that there is some just concern. And as we've talked about, we've said, it doesn't all have to be negative. It just has to be a thing where, look, we used to be able to kind of keep tabs on all of this very easily, or if we wanted to get a story out, we gave it to this outlet perhaps or whatever, and now you can't do that as much anymore. And so I do think that is causing waves or causing concern among the government and among the greater establishment. And look, I mean, we as a population, and particularly people like around our age or around that, we've seen how this has developed. We grew up with 3 channels. Then we grew up with the internet being free. Then we saw it kind of seem to get more cracked back. And now we see Elon Musk having, making X seem like a free speech beacon right now. We see like Rumble, where it seems like you can have a little bit more leeway with what you say.
Yeah.
We personally, you and myself, have seen potential effects of maybe some crackdowns. So it's really fascinating, but I think it's a very important thing. And when you start to lose the sense of freedom of speech, it, and it doesn't feel good. And I think people were feeling that way for a few years. Now they're feeling better, in my opinion, because of X, because of Rumble, and because of people like Michael Schellenberger or Taibbi, who are not conservatives, saying, you know what, this wasn't so great. That might have been done to somebody that we might not vote for. But like Jonathan Turley or Alan Dershowitz, we're going to call this because we just don't agree with what's happening, because we just don't think it's right.
Yeah, and in that light, I mean, Russell Brand, definitely Tucker Carlson's talking about how crucial, freedom of speech is. Elon Musk, and that's one of the reasons why he says that he bought X. I mean, you're on X all the time. You've just passed 17,000, and first of all, congratulations on that. Paul has passed 17,000 followers on X. Very, very strong. Good job. The little bro is crushing it, and that's just the start. I know there's people that are much bigger than that, but for someone that literally was anonymous, was cloaked up, if you will, 2 short months ago, that does his own research, does his own writing, not a celebrity, didn't get the kit, didn't get the funding or anything like that. Pretty darn good, pretty darn impressive. How important, Paul, is what Elon is doing at X? How big of a factor in a force for free speech do you feel like Elon and X is right now, and what kind of impact do you think that has?
I think it's absolutely critical and crucial, and is in some ways historic, and could be looked at 15 years from now as a historic turning point. The great thing about people like Elon Musk or somebody like Trump, and I'll mention something that happened with him this weekend, is that they've been through adversity. They've gone through things before. They've had people try to kind of shove them off the stage metaphorically before, and they've had to come back from that. It's very hard to hold people like that down from their goal. In short, winners win. Elon is a winner. Trump is a winner. And just coming back to this weekend, look, right after Friday and the New York ruling came down and Trump MAGA was down, everything on Saturday, Trump launched a shoe line, which sold out in like 2 hours. I mean, so not only is he
the Trump shoes are crushing
kind of
it. I just saw an article about the Trump shoes. Some CEO wanted an autographed Trump sneaker. I mean, these things are like front page news. This thing is just going crazy. I love it. Go ahead.
Trump knows, as you know, and this is people don't understand what Trump, or not from the kind of the marketing or PR world. Trump is the master of marketing. Like, you might not understand how smart he is, or maybe he can't quote passages from Julius Caesar, but when it comes to marketing and getting the message out there, nobody beats Trump. And so here he is with the shoes. He's back in the cultural discussion. He's winning. And it came out last week that the SPAC, I believe, like the financial setup so he can
I think
join
I can't remember exactly what those are called. It's like special purpose something,
DWAC or something. Right, exactly. Well, apparently that's been approved, and if it goes through with the number of shares that he has right now, if it goes through it, I think the current valuation, he could make $4 billion. So it's like, I mean, you think you got him on this $355 million in ruling in New York, which of course is big, but then he comes back with a $4 billion thing.
Bro, this guy was, and I've met him before. I've shaken his hand, stuff like that. I've been up close and personal with 45, and this dude was like the Logan Paul, Jake Paul, the Kardashians and stuff in terms of marketing and just branding and merchandising before any of them. I mean, this guy from Queens just knows how to rock and roll it. And what do they say? What Sinatra, right? If you make it in New York, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And Donald Trump is definitely embodies that, I think. And he wants to make America great again, dude. And he wants to get things going. There's nothing wrong with a little selling and marketing and capitalism and all that. And I'm digging it. And he's also making it fun, bro. He understands how to tap into what people want to make something interesting, something special, something unique, something limited edition, something cool. And I just feel like the Dems are just crying about it, dude. They just don't want to have fun, and it's just like these Trump haters. Or I don't know, dude. I don't know. But go ahead, Paul.
It's just, again, like Elon. Those guys they're used to finding solutions, and they're used to people throwing obstacles in their way. Where some people, they're used to having everything handed on a platter. Elon and Trump are not like that. They're very successful, but have had to work really hard to get there. So some of what they've had to deal with recently, I mean, it's not fun. I mean, but they're built for it. And so what I think, and you mentioned this, is the Democrats are kind of in Biden. They can't compete with that. I mean, it just was breaking while we're on the air here that apparently Biden made the announcement or whatever pronouncement that they're going to scale back on the electric vehicle mandate. Yeah. Because the polls don't look really good in Michigan right now, and the auto workers aren't really happy. But the thing is that you're playing defense politically, whereas Trump is playing offense. And that's the difference. You have this kind of machine in Trump, who is a workaholic still at his age. I think only sleeps like 4 hours a night. Ditto with Elon, who's a workaholic, energy man. It's just hard to keep up with guys like that. This is their whole life has been like this. They've been like this for decades. If you put somebody who's been kind of in the Leviathan or the governmental system or kind of the administrative state, who aren't used to that pace, they just can't keep up. And you and I both know this. You know it better than anybody because you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. But having been in Silicon Valley and stuff where this is the life, and of course Elon knows this,
right? That's
what it is. And that's how people succeed out there. And so Elon's the king of that, and so is Trump.
Yeah, and it's funny, you're talking about an effect. The reason why we bring up the sneakers is you're having a real effect out there in the media, in the left-wing media and stuff like that. Quote, CNN's Jake Tapper, Real Clear Politics, video, quote, CNN's Tapper, it will take a lot of cheap sneakers to pay Trump's $355 million fine, unquote. I mean, dude, can you be a bigger hater than that, dude? I mean, how big of a hater do you have to be about that? It's really unbelievable. And also, somewhat related to that is Governor Haley, quote, Governor Chris Sununu from New Hampshire, which Nikki Haley lost by a lot, and that was supposed to be the state. That was the state more than any other state, more than South Carolina. This is the state we're going to do it. So, quote, Haley surrogate Chris Sununu on Trump's legal battles, quote unquote, quote, whether it's legitimate or not doesn't matter, quote unquote. I mean, what? What are we talking about, dude? That is insane. How do you even say that? How do you say that with a straight face and call yourself a conservative? How do you say that? So it's okay. So you're basically saying, oh, well, this is really hurting us and it's not good. And what are we going to do in this? This goes back to like Rush Limbaugh when he would say, it's the seriousness of the charge. Or are they true? Well, the charges are very serious. So we're going to have to look at it. Wait, are they true? And it's like, dude, with people like this is the problem. Conservatives and Republicans are tired of people like this, quote unquote, defending them or leading them or representing them. This is ridiculous. Meanwhile, you've got Senator Gold Bars Menendez. He's still in the Senate, players. He hasn't gone anywhere. Adam Schiff, who some people on the campaign trail are calling on debates are calling Adam Schiff a liar to his face, and he can't say anything. He's still there. How about Eric? Maybe I'm going to date, a spy Swalwell, allegedly, reportedly. He's still there. I mean, what are we doing, dude? This is insane. It doesn't matter whether, and I'm not alleging anything. I'm just going off reports. I'm a talk show host and being entertaining for public figures, etc. You've got a governor, a Republican governor says it doesn't matter whether it's legitimate or not. It doesn't matter. That's insane. Now, Ted Cruz, you said Senator Ted Cruz. I'll get your comments here, Paul, as we wrap up this segment. Senator Ted Cruz, quote, Democrats' use of justice system against Trump is a, quote, systematic and sustained assault on the rule of law, quote unquote. Props to Ted Cruz for coming correct with, in my opinion, with that analysis. I mean, Paul, can you even fathom what Governor Sununu is saying here? Haley surrogate. Those are the people supporting Governor Haley. That's who's supporting Governor Haley against President Trump. Go ahead, Paul. We got a minute.
Yeah, look, you said Swalwell and Menendez are still there, but we know who's not there, and that's George Santos. And let me tell you, after that special election happened and his seat was lost to the Democratic Party, I listened to a space with Santos in it. And what I learned from that space is that guy knows his district cold. He is much more skilled of a politician than I realized that he was. And so it's kind of a shame in some ways that we lost that talent, even though, of course, he had his own issues.
A lot of things to talk about. It's President's Day here on Newstalk 1040 AM, and we're getting ready for the last segment. This is the John D. Villarreal Radio Show. I am John D. Villarreal on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Stay tuned. Last segment coming up in 6 minutes. See you then. Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, and this is the John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on Facebook, Twitter, X now, YouTube, LinkedIn. So much to talk about. Final segment. Oh my gosh, they are talking about President Biden might not even debate. This is crazy, dude. This is crazy. The Views. Let me revise and extend that. The View's worried that maybe Biden can't win a debate. Maybe it's not going to work out so good. This is Fox News here from Hannah Penrick. Okay, quote: The View host clash over whether Biden should debate. Worried should debate Trump. Worry President Biden, quote unquote, can lose. Yeah, that's right. Quote: If Biden flubs, they'll be all over him. Unquote. Dude, I mean, they're already talking about this guy's may not debate. Maybe he shouldn't debate. He's definitely not debating Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, like, dude, there's been a lot of concerns here. There's been a lot of questions about Biden. People have talked about taking a cognitive test. President Trump has taken a cognitive test. We're not trying to be punks. We're not trying to be mean. But there are just a lot of questions out there. David Axelrod, other people have said a lot of questions. Paul, I mean, you know, do you think... Is it feasible that we're not going to see Biden and Trump debate? Like, what do you expect? I mean, a lot of people are saying that Biden's not looking great. He's made a lot of mistakes about, you know, calling the president Sisi of Egypt, the president of Mexico, saying that he was seeing Mitterrand, who's been, you know, was the president of France a long time ago, you know, no longer alive. I mean, there's been a lot of mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes. I probably make mistakes in this broadcast. But there's mistakes and there's mistakes. And President Biden is making like a lot of mistakes. Is this going to be the super stealth campaign? I mean, are we weekends of burn? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think it very well could be that. And we already saw a hint of this with him not doing the Super Bowl interview. I mean, if you don't want to do a Super Bowl interview with somebody who I would imagine it'd be pre-recorded and everything, how are you going to do a live debate with President Trump, who is very skilled and a great talker and also a great entertainer? So he can get the better of you in a number of different ways. I'd be concerned about that if I was Team Biden. I would not be surprised at all if they try to sidestep the debates. That wouldn't surprise me in the least.
You've also got Charlemagne the God from the Breakfast Club out of New York saying that, quote unquote, Biden doesn't have, quote unquote, main character energy. And it's already, and so that's such a weird, interesting choice of words, because a lot of people are saying, you know, the conspiracy people on the right, that Biden's not really in charge, that someone else is in charge, or some other group, or the aides, or whatnot, that he just doesn't have the capacity. And when you're saying that Biden doesn't have main character energy, then you're someone like Charlemagne on the left that's basically, you know, has punked out Republicans and conservatives in this election cycle, in my opinion, on their show. I mean, am I reading too much into that? I mean, what do you think of those comments? That is going to be, a lot of people are going to hear that maybe in Charlemagne's big audience online and also on the air and say that, you know, maybe this Biden's not the cool guy.
Yeah, it's a concern. It's a thing. Look, I mean, Biden had a go around with Charlemagne in the last election. That didn't help many. So
right, remember that.
And I think that there are still people who are hoping that Biden is replaced. And I'm talking about the Democratic side. But as we've looked and we've talked before the show about, the polls just don't seem to support that. Meaning that Biden looks like he polls better against Trump than anybody else does. And I would include Michelle Obama in that calculation from the polls that I've seen and what I've been told. So it is a very difficult quandary, which is, here's a guy who is, 81 years old, I think. He maybe is past his best. Maybe he isn't the greatest talker and so forth. Maybe you're not thrilled about him. Somebody like Charlemagne isn't that thrilled about him, but he might be your best shot. So then what do you do? How do you get people enthusiastic And a part of what I think the Democratic strategy has been, and I mean, they've said this essentially is, well, okay, we're going to make it a choice election, which is our guy isn't that great, but the other guy's really bad. And so they keep trying to kind of pile things on against Trump. But at some point, you've got to make your own case. And your guy's got to kind of stand up. And I don't know. I mean, I'm glad that I'm not the consultant that has to worry about this.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think you're going to be able to scare enough people with that type of stuff, especially when the economic situation and to some extent the global situation is kind of scary. You know what I mean? And you know that there's a guy. It's not like, I think maybe these playbooks could have, should have, maybe could have possibly worked before 2016. But now that Trump, people have seen 4 years of Trump and 4 years of Biden, and the contrast couldn't be starker. And that you just can't, you're not going to be able to scare people like that with Trump, especially when more and more things come out with what Mike Benz is saying, what Schellenberger's saying, what other people are saying about. And again, what about Hunter Biden? And again, it's not the pile on Hunter Biden or on the family. It's like, no, dude, because the relevancy. One of the relevant points about Hunter Biden is how about the rest of the family? How do these leaders in Washington on their salary? I think Vivek was saying that on the Breakfast Club, I believe, if I'm right. Like, it doesn't pencil out. You can't get these multi-million-dollar homes, these multiple homes, these yachts. You just can't get these things off of government salaries. So what's going on? Is it speeches? Is it, insider trading that was not illegal, not that long ago? I'm not giving any legal advice. I'm not licensed in Florida, etc. Blah, blah, blah. People are, this is like Hunger Games. This is like really, like, it raises a lot of questions. Biden's got a lot of houses and he's got, the Corvettes and all his type, just tons of stuff. 10% to the big guy. I mean, dude, there's just a lot of questions. The American voter has a lot of questions beyond what flavor of ice cream are you eating, President Biden, or just seeing if he is able to make it through another, a bike ride on the beach. Like, it's just not going to work, dude. Like, I don't know how they're going to have, I don't know. Listen, you got to have a campaign. I don't think that we're 8 months away. I mean, do you think that the media and the Democrats are going to be able to run the stealth campaign with Biden, Paul?
I don't. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult. And just going back to what you said about thinking this isn't going to work, here are 2 data points. One, I just saw something from the pollster saying that people who are disabled, like on Social Security disability, they're starting to move to Trump, which, those are very much traditionally Democratic voters. Why? Because inflation is making things difficult for them to just live their life because they can't afford things. Some of those people are starting to move away. I saw on Fox yesterday with Lawrence Jones, he was talking to 5 people who live in Harlem. And they're dealing with, I guess, migrant, like a new migrant center being put up there. And the people were feeling like, look, the migrants are getting a bunch of services and we're not. So you're starting to get some of these traditional Democratic stronghold voting blocks who are dissatisfied, who are not happy, who are starting to move away from Biden. If you're losing support like that, I don't know how you can try to run a campaign from the basement. I don't know how you can run a campaign on defense. You're going to have to try to do something. What we see all the time in these stories, these leaked stories about how Obama or other people in the Democrats aren't happy with Biden is, you need to do more. You need to get more assertive in your campaign. The problem is, I think some of those people, like Carville, like some others, they really believed that if you slipped in just some generic Democrat, that they would do better than Biden. But the polls are showing that isn't going to happen. In these polls that I saw with head-to-heads, it was like 43-42 Trump versus Biden, Trump 43. But the numbers for like Trump versus Newsom was like 46-36 Trump There was a very similar number for Trump versus Whitmer. You're not going to be able to do better than Biden. And I think they're starting to realize that. So there's kind of being.
Let me explain this.
I don't want to say there's.
No, that's fine. I'm going to help you out, and you're doing a good job. Let me explain this. I'm a political expert, okay? And sometimes people, unfortunately in politics, people have a short memory. And sometimes they forget what they already know. And the thing is that, like, remember, in my opinion, it wouldn't be surprising if Vice President Harris was, maybe that was your backup, and it was the Biden Harris administration. In other words, it was almost this push from the press that Biden's just going to be in there for a little bit, and then Kamala Harris is going to take over. Well, that failed miserably. Okay, because she's not, a lot of let me revise extend that. The voters, she polls way worse than Biden, and a lot of voters don't feel like she's competent. Now, when you're losing the competency popularity contest to Biden at this point, holy smokes! But remember, this is what I'm trying to talk about. Like you said, Paul, they're surprised at a generic, a Democrat and this and that, and it goes back to what The Rock says. He doesn't, his friends in Hollywood, they aren't Biden supporters, they're Democrat loyalists. Okay. So we can just throw in, Democrat X and it's all going to be okay. But remember, you're coming off that political sugar high of Obama, who had that very charismatic campaign and that grassroots energy and all that type of stuff. But like I said, you forget what you know sometimes. Remember, and I know you want to comment on this, Paul, Biden was put in there as a candidate in 2020. In other words, like he was losing badly. They came back to Biden, to try to compete against Trump, and eventually, obviously, Biden's president right now. Why they come back to Biden? Because they had to. Because the other candidates were going to lose badly. Bernie Sanders and other stuff like that. So they had to put on, Scranton Joe, good old Scranton Joe, and he's going to get things back to normal. And it's okay. We want the mean tweets. We'll have a nice, normal, moderate, administration, everything like that. And now instead they got this left-wing bonanza with AOC and Obama retreads, in charge and stuff like that of different, serious initiatives, and Susan Rice, and when she was in there, different people like that. It's out of control. So yeah, it's not going to work to have generic Democrat X in there, because the Democrats now have moved super left. And this is what Elon Musk has said on X and other places like that. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. That's a Ronald Reagan line. And it shows kind of a time lapse of different cartoons of he used to be left of center, years ago. Then he was looked at moderate, some years ago. And now he's looked at right wing because the Democrats are super far left. So why do you think now that the Democratic Party has moved even more left after, 2020 and COVID and BLM and all these types of stuff, when you had to put Biden in there for 2020 to even win against Trump? You can't replace this dude now. And this is the absolute political conundrum that the Democrats face. Does that make sense, Paul?
It does. And you mentioned The Rock, and The Rock is actually trying to make a comeback right now as a character, or as an on-screen person on WWE. And he's starting to realize it's not what it used to be for him. And so sometimes there's an overvaluation of this kind of charismatic figures and so forth, the Obamas and Newsom, whereas the voter isn't necessarily looking at things like that. And you mentioned what Biden's appeal was and is. And I've talked about this many times. I live in Pennsylvania, and I know the Scranton Joe and everything. And I know what people think about him. Right. They did move to him, in my opinion, both the party and particularly the voters. Well, the party did it because the voters told them to do it. That's what they were saying at the polling. They moved to Joe because, right, he was a link to the old school Democratic Party, the moderate party, the Blue Dog Party, the Reagan Dems, that type of a thing. However, as you said, he's not that anymore. But people still feel that that's there in him. I know people here in Pennsylvania. It's like it's the old Joe's in there somewhere.
And no disrespect
So
to
we
them because
trust him.
he campaigned that
No.
way. He was packaged that way. That's how they tried to sell it in the campaign. But that's not what they got when it came to the administration, in my opinion. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, and so there's a trust level with Joe because he's been in government for 50 years, and people know what he is, or they think they know what he is, even if he isn't there right now, and politically, maybe he's more left. I know the voters here, they don't have that trust level with Gavin Newsom. They don't have that trust level with Kamala Harris. They don't have that trust level with Michelle Obama. They don't have that trust level with Gretchen Whitmer. It isn't there. And it's not something you can create instantly. Gavin Newsom would get crushed here against Trump. I guarantee you that. Michelle Obama, okay, you have some of the pixie dust from the charismatic Obama era. It's not the same thing.
She'd get
First of all,
crushed.
you're not
Let's be
Barack
very clear.
Obama.
She would get crushed.
Right.
She would get crushed. I
She
think
would.
she would get crushed politically even worse than Gavin Newsom. I think she would have much more support and much more stuff around her in the media and everything like that than Gavin Newsom. But Gavin Newsom is a much more polished, better speaker. Although Gavin Newsom, he didn't live up to the hype and got smashed, in my opinion, by Governor DeSantis in their debate on handing out Fox News. But I do think that Gavin Newsom is much smoother and can roll with the political punches much better than Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama can be telegenic. She can, be charismatic. She has a story to tell. She's got the experience. She's got the Obama aura. She has a lot of positives that she's bringing to the table politically. I'm just being an analyst, okay? But I do feel like she's not used to being in the ring like that and being hard pressed. Could you imagine her in a debate against President Trump? I think that she would get, kind of very prickly in that situation. I mean, Trump could easily bait her into an overreaction like live. I could see that. I could really see that. And then look, think of Nikki Haley. Think of how Vivek got to Nikki Haley, and then Nikki Haley had to bite her lip in one of those other debates and stuff. And it was just weird. Like, wait a minute, is this a real debate or am I at the Wax Museum here? So I think there's more people that dislike that would maybe not how do I say this? Look, there's a lot of people that don't like the Obama presidency, particularly looking back, right? Some do. But President Obama is dramatically better politically than Michelle Obama. That's just a political fact, in my opinion. Now, you can debate that. You can not debate that. And I don't want to hear about, you're being unfair. No, dude. I mean,
No.
it's President Obama. I believe people are like, listen, I think President Obama would have a hard time winning against Donald Trump right now. I absolutely believe that. I don't care all the myths. Like you said, it's the old saying, you can never go home again. Like, I used to live places where I walked in there now and like, I wouldn't fit in there. I wouldn't want to be there. You know what I mean? And, it's not 2008 anymore. It's not 2012 anymore. Okay. So I think President Obama would have a much harder time today in these circumstances with what people are feeling right now than people think. Because think about it. Are the policies different? If President Obama was president instead of Joe Biden, would the policies be different now? The rap and the knock and the potential speculation is that this is Obama's third term. Okay, well, yeah, but Obama's a much better candidate than Biden. Absolutely, 100% agree. But remember what I said before. They had to put Joe in there to win. If they could have put Kamala Harris up instead, do you think they would have done it? If they could have put Susan Rice instead, do you think they would have done it? If they could have put Oprah, do you think they would have done it than Joe Biden? Joe Biden and Obama, they don't like each other. The Biden family and the Obama family don't like each other. You see, this is why you listen to me, because I'm a political expert, dude. Because I'm a talk show. Because I know things and can analyze things. I know Paul's going to have things to say. I'm putting things together now that nobody else does. That's why you have to listen to the John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 and live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and the rest, and YouTube. Okay, so follow what I'm saying right now, because this is crucial. So President Obama, the policies are basically the same as if he was in there. Are very, very close. President Obama, yeah, he won 2 terms, stuff like that. But could he win against Trump right now? I don't know. And I think President Trump could really expose him and get him out of character very quickly. And I think people are very tired of these policies. That being said, President Obama is very skilled, and the media would, as a politician, and very charismatic, and the media would rally around him. But again, they had to put in President Biden because all that left wing stuff, like it was, they had to sell Scranton Joe. They were selling Scranton Joe. Scranton Joe was the only one that could beat Trump. Trump is a global celebrity, dude. There's no one more charismatic on the campaign trail right now, bar none. Period. Probably globally, period. So then, okay, so President Obama is going to have a hard time, and these are Obama's policies-ish, kind of similar. And Biden served in the Obama White House too. He was VP. Who's better a politician, President Obama or Michelle Obama? Michelle Obama hasn't won for county dog catcher or county sheriff or DA. She hasn't been up for election on anything recently. And why should she be? This whole idea that we're the Kennedy dynasty and the Clinton dynasty, like stop. It's the same thing. You know what it is, Paul? And I'll get your comments real quick. It's the same thing with President Clinton and Secretary Clinton. Secretary Clinton, very smart. Clinton legacy. Secretary Clinton wouldn't have been anything. And I'm not trying to be a punk. I'm being real. We wouldn't know of Secretary Clinton if it wasn't for her husband, Bill Clinton, Governor Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, one of the best politicians around. Now, Secretary Clinton, Yale graduate, very accomplished, very smart, very capable, not as good of a politician. And lost twice, dude. So this is a fantasy about Michelle. The first, that's great. First, second, third, fifth, 20th, doesn't matter, dude. I'm telling you what the political reality is, in my opinion. I'm analyzing it. That I don't think Michelle Obama is that skilled of a politician. I think she's a better celebrity than a politician, if that makes sense. Paul, what are your comments?
Yeah, I agree with you. And to be fair to Michelle, I don't think she wants to be a politician.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't. I probably don't. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
She doesn't have the patience to do it. And I'm not saying that because I'm dismissing her. I'm saying that she doesn't want to have it. She doesn't have the tolerance.
Time out. Let me just, I got to say that. I really apologize. I got to say this. And honestly, I'm going to give Michelle Obama probably one of the best compliments that I can give right now. And maybe this is the best way to say this. And I'll get your comments real quick, Paul. Michelle Obama is way less fake than her husband. She's way more real. And that can be a strength or that can really hurt you in politics. Because there's a lot of politicians that are really fake. And I don't think Michelle Obama is that fake. I think she's a little fake. She could be fake. She could do that. But I think it's hard for her to be fake. And as a person, I totally applaud that. But as a politician, and particularly if your policies aren't popular, that can be a political liability. Final comments, Paul.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. And I think the difference between Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton is Hillary Clinton wanted to be a politician and Michelle Obama doesn't want to be one.
Perfectly said. Way to wrap it up. That's why you're my bro. You get it done. Here we go. Check out Paul on Twitter. The guy's over 17,000 followers. He's rocking and rolling out there. We appreciate everybody. We appreciate the 1040 audience. We appreciate everybody out there on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. My name is John D. Villarreal. This is the John D. Villarreal radio show on Newstalk 1040. Have a great weekend. Happy President's Day. We'll see you next week, players. Stay blessed.